Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Maqbool with you at PTV World. And in today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important stories. The first is in reference to what has been going on with regards to a change in presidency in the U.S. and, of course, with Mr. Donald Trump coming forward with his second term in office. It's very, very important, of course, to see the kind of decisions that he's going to be making, particularly, of course, the nominations with regards to his cabinet members and other key posts which do not require confirmations. It's important to see what it will be the future of these particular roles and the way that they're going to then shape the policy and decision making with reference to Trump's second term in office. Then there's, of course, also the fact that there are a number of key foreign policy decisions that, of course, are going to be something that Mr. Trump will be facing quite immediately. And that, of course, includes conflict regions such as Syria and Israel. But, of course, there is an important discussion at around whether or not there's going to be a lot of lip service or it's going to be more or less the same thing as the previous administration. And then, of course, with the way that it's going to go forward within the U.S. as well and the kind of promises and rhetoric that were part of the U.S. campaign. That is going to be our focus in the first segment of the show today. Our next one is going to be taking a look at what is going on at home with reference to the fight against terrorism. And we've seen that a number of terrorists have been killed in two intelligence-based operations in North Waziristan. And this, of course, also included the martyrdom of our own soldiers as well. But it's important to note that because of these intelligence-based operations, we have seen that the security has been strengthened, and of course a lot of these attempts have been thwarted. But yet again, what do we make of the general ways in which we're going to be tackling the issues of law and order and security in Pakistan, and particularly in regions such as North Waziristan, is of utmost importance, particularly when we talk about the Azm-e-Istikam and the fact that the essence of IPOs is going to be strengthened as per the Prime Minister. So that is, of course, something that we're also going to be taking a look at in today's show. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analysts Farrukh, Pitafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined for our first segment online by Major General Retired Zahid Mahmood. Thank you very much, General Zahid, for joining us and being a part of the discussion today. And I'll start with you in terms of what we've seen so far of the previous engagement that we've seen as part of President Trump's presidency, and then, of course, now with the second term in office, and the kind of key figures and nominations that have been springing up. And there's, of course, a lot of comparison that is going to be drawn with reference to what Mr. Trump did in the previous term and what sort of decision making he will have with this term. And so first, let's take a look at the cabinet members and the names and nominations that have come up so far. What do you make of them, and whether or not you think that any strategy or approach by Mr. Trump is any different from his previous term?
Thank you very much, Sana, for having me on your show once again. I think Trump is Trump. So even if it is a second term, but it is really he's really unpredictable. So it's a very extremely challenging for anyone guessing about his new term. But I think as he won't be having any pressure for the next
Right. Yes. Go ahead.
So this is his final term, and probably he will. Sorry, am I audible?
Yes. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay. So I was just saying that he doesn't have any pressure, for re-election or a next term. So it is his final term, and probably we're going to see a new Trump. He has always been through all the crises in his life, all the challenges. He has already faced two attempts. Life attempts, two impeachments, then who could think that he'll be taking back the office? But he has surprised the world with his tremendous election campaign, and probably whatever he has claimed with his policies, declared policies, domestic policies, and foreign policies as well. So probably with the team which he's setting up, with him, the chessboard he is setting up, probably we're going to see big changes domestically, especially in terms of the revamping or reorganization or restructuring of the bureaucracy with Elon Musk. They've already established with Swami and Elon Musk to revamp and restructure their bureaucracy. And he's spoken about saving around $2 trillion. So this is a big ask, but he's extremely determined, and he would be doing it with restructuring, reorganization, and cutting on. There are around 435, appointments, and they have an idea that they'll be able to run they'll be able to function with the government with 98 or 99. So it's a big ask and big cut. Then he has made a lot of promises. We can speak about his priorities, domestic priorities, especially inflation and economy will be his top priority. Then reduction of taxes, of course, and then the immigration. I think we are already talking of the big wall, and probably they're going to be huge reduction and United
Right.
States, and he may be deporting the biggest deportation also.
Right, absolutely, and that is of course important. But you mentioned, of course, how this of course will be a new era for Mr. Trump, and while of course also looking at how perhaps he still retains a lot of his characteristics in the past. And so, I want your take in terms of how the world has also evolved, how U.S. and the world community has also evolved while we now move on to the second term of Mr. Trump. And so, in relation to how things have changed, will there be a different strategy that he will engage in terms of dealing with both inside and outside of the U.S.?
Look, I've already spoken about the domestic, a little bit about the domestic, but as far as the foreign policy is concerned, Sana, look, the strategic environment today in this world is changing with every passing hour. So it's a big challenge, and especially we as a Muslims and we as a Pakistanis, we are extremely interested to look at his policies about, especially his application of policies in the Middle East, number one, then in this our part of the world, and then his policies about the China's, because all his policies are going to impact Pakistan and the region and the international community. Now, while coming over to the Middle East, I don't think so that there is going to be much change from what is happening now. Rather, I foresee that there'll be more leverage which will be given to Israel, considering his nominations and considering his team, people like Huckabee, who have different, I mean, opinion about the Middle East problems. He has been on record saying that there is no word like Palestinian. So there are Arabs or Persians. So there are other lands also in all parts of the world where Palestinians can go and live. So the people with this mindset, they're already coming into the middle. They'll be impacting the Middle Eastern policy. Then his envoys. So all of them have a little hawkish approach towards the Middle East, and Israel is already on a free spree, killing spree now with this development in Syria, latest development. Probably the application of the Greater Israel is already on. So I don't think so that though he has declared that his hands are off from the Syrian crisis, but United States hands can never be off. Already they are supporting the Kurds in that area. They have declared these rebels as they have proscribed them. So they have already they have a policy. Then they have the fear of recreation or resurgence of ISIS. So in Middle East, I don't think so that Israel will continue to be their favorite baby and like a proxy. So the genocidal war is already on. So probably there won't be much of change in Middle East. Now coming over to our part of the world, it has I mean the Indo-Pacific strategy is impacting us. China has already been declared as the main competitor. So because they call them main competitor because they think that China has the capacity and will both to compete with United States, to challenge United States. So then the dominant challenger is the Russia. So they say that they have the will to challenge United States, but they don't have that capacity. So with that, they've already supporting India as their next, as India has presented themselves as net security provider in this region. So it will impact Pakistan. So I don't think so that they're going to have some soft corner or some policies which will be impacting us directly. But of course, their policies towards India and their policies towards China will, of course, will have impact on us. You see, and then we are not seeing anything coming out from their camp about Afghanistan, which is really impacting us. So So their Middle East policy, this policy is likely to continue. Rather, I'm not expecting that much of the change is there. But anyway, Trump will do something because he don't have the pressure for the next term. So something he will have to showcase to the world that look, this I have promised. But I don't think so that that is going to make much change.
Hmm. Right. Faisal, I want your perspective on this as well, particularly in terms of the approach that we now see. And we've, of course, spoken about this as part of the race to the presidency as well, and the kind of course, rhetoric and political campaign that we saw. And, of course, understandably so, it's different from how things are executed once you're in office. But in terms of your own expectations with Mr. Donald Trump and what you have put forward in terms of what can possibly be his way forward, both nationally and internationally, what do you make in terms of the kind of steps that we've seen coming out in the front now in terms of the appointment of the cabinet members and the key, of course, executives for this administration? And what is that really pointing towards in terms of what your initial expectation was?
Yes, and obviously when I look at the cabinet formation, the most important person I look at is Elon Musk. Elon Musk shouldn't be forgotten in terms that he has been playing a pivotal role in modern times in America when it comes to, of course, his influence on the youth, his influence on the Generation Z, the one we consider, and the kind of influence he had. It is already apparent that Trump is highly impressed by the kind of social media has been playing the role in terms of his second term to be he won the election and very easily, and now looking at his stance, I mean, as he has always been considered as someone who's highly unpredictable, this time around I am expecting, and the kind of names he's coming up with. First of all, all of the names which we are seeing, like Marco Rubio as a Secretary of State, and many other names which we have been seeing with the hawkish eyes in the past. Of course, at that time, whatever the statements they were coming up with, I mean, quite a few numbers of them, they were the candidates of presidency as well in past. So this time around, I think whatever Trump decides, that would matter the most. Rest of all the secretaries of the state, they can, of course, I mean, we can consider them like they can be there, they can bring their input as well. But overall, I think the governance, as we talk about the politics, I mean, politics, we know that so far, till Joe Biden, we have been seeing that the sort of stance, it was a boomer's stance. The old ways of getting the eyes of the voters, they are outdated now, and I think the kind of phenomenon of lobbying and then think tanks and then mainstream media, it has been used previously, which was very effective. Especially including the newspapers and then journals and what people have been writing in it and how people got influenced by it. This time around, it was entirely different, and I think Trump can easily see how he got into Oval Office once more, and that is only because of utilizing the modern tools of social mediums. So to me, if he has used the modern tools, it means he is no more looking towards the boomers' way of politics or boomers' way of governance over the people. This time around, the governance over the people is going to be Generation Z as well, whom, of course, we will be seeing Elon Musk having an eye on that. And to me, whatever the matters of concerns would be in coming future, they would revolve around what people think about it. And how would they judge? They would judge people through social media, they would judge people through what kind of narratives the young generation is coming up with. So the coming 4 years, I'm going to see Donald Trump sitting in the Oval Office and just checking around about what the next generation wants from him. And I think he considers himself to be someone who's been loved by his people, who's been who's been carrying a huge influence on his people, and he is very thankful to the young generation to be, of course, in a position to support him. And that's why he wants to listen to them, and he wants to be more famous. And by the end of his second term, while he leaves the office, he wants to leave like a man who actually listened to the next generation rather than the boomers, rather than the old people who've been running the country with the old style think tanks and lobbyings and all of that. So to me, I think it is going to be entirely different this time. When it comes to, of course, foreign policy, there is a huge influence, and he himself knows, and he accepted that while he was standing at an election rally in which we saw that majority of the Muslims, they were there, and he himself says that more than 70% of the Muslim, they have voted for him. It means that he is honoring them. And to me, I think when it comes to deciding about the Middle East, it would be carrying a huge impact on his decision making as well. Reason being, he himself said it, that I know they voted for me, and I honor them, and I know what they want from me. When it comes to, of course, Ukrainian crisis, he has been of the view that as soon as I step into the Oval Office, within 24 hours, or let's call it 48 hours, or let me give him 72 hours, he might be coming up with kind of solution in which it might be a rapid solution, but he is someone who just wants to pull out from all of the wars. But when it comes to when it comes to the security aspect of Middle East, especially a country like Israel is creating further sort of insecurities for itself and the other other allies of US in the region. I'm talking about, of course, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, and Saudi Arabia as well, the countries that have been always considered as the most peaceful countries of Middle East. When there will be more insecurities for these nations as well, then of course the presence of US would be maintained in the region, but at the same time the Trump would try to get to conclusions in terms of shunning all of this practice which is going on of genocide. He will not allow that, and he would rather ask everyone to come to Camp David maybe, and let's sit down and decide the future course. And to me, I think this is the way forward. And when it comes for its own countries, like they have a migration problem, or people getting into US from different other countries and Latin American countries, and I think he is going to be very tough on that, and he believes that people who are illegally staying in US, they are of course creating problems for governance as well, problems for of course there is joblessness that he has to cover. So he is going to take steps on it, and because he has been pledging, and he knows that he got the maximum vote for that reason as well. So every bit that played role in bringing Trump back to the Oval Office, he is going to honor that, and he is not going to disregard any of the efforts made by the youth. So to me, I think governance in the future, it's all going to be people centric. It is all going to be the quick surveys over the over all of these social mediums, especially X, Twitter X. It is going to be play a pivotal role, and I think President Trump is highly impressed by Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is going to play a sort of a role in the coming 4 years.
Right, and Farrukh, of course, we'd love to hear your response on all of that. And of course, the perspective in terms of the choices, in terms of the nominations, and whether or not we're actually going to be seeing all of these big changes. But also add to that, of course, the international aspects of the region, particularly the Middle East. We saw a post coming in from the president with reference to Syria most recently as well, speaking about how we shouldn't get involved and let it evolve on its own. And while the rhetoric, of course, is there in terms of not just Syria, but in terms of wars in general, as Faisal is pointing out, is that really going to be the case, and will that be the way forward in terms of what he actually decides to do at the end of the day?
Thank you very much, Sana. First of all, I was really smiling at that time when Faisal was telling us that the era of boomer
Yes.
is over. Donald Trump, 78, is nothing if he is not a boomer. And that actually shows in his campaign as well.
Yeah.
And when you talk about his, cabinet choices, I don't think any Gen Z has actually passed muster. The closest, I think, would be one Gen Y or millennial. I think he is millennial. I am not sure. Vivek Ramaswamy, he might be one exception. Otherwise, most of them are Gen Xers, right? Or for that matter, boomers. RFK Jr. is one of the examples. He is also boomer, right? With all those people, actually, you can tell what kind of governance model we are heading towards. One thing is for sure, and I always quote G.B. Shaw, particularly his very famous quote, there are two tragedies in life. One, not to get your heart's desire. The second, to get it. So right now, what you're looking at is the second kind of tragedy. But Donald Trump is a smart man. I have never disputed his intelligence. And I think that while we keep on looking at the political chessboard, I think his actual strength lies on the economic one. And I think that that is going to actually impact the world really, really hugely, so to speak. But let me first actually answer your earlier question to Faisal and I think General Saab as well regarding cabinet nominees, right? So far, and that actually shows you whether he is going to stick to his populist promises or not. So far, the names that we have seen, from Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, these two guys, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who are going to head the Doge department. Actually, Doge is within the name itself. Reminds you of Dogecoin by Elon Musk, right? So there are many other names. I think usually he's keeping with his promises so far. We don't know whether he's going to shift gears once he comes to power, but at this moment, there are two complicated cases. One is his DOD nominee, Secretary of State, SecDef nominee, that is Pete Hegseth, because Pete Hegseth has not only been accused of sexual crime of sorts, but also he's said to have a drinking problem, and in one case, he was so drunk that he ended up actually chanting slogans like "Kill all Muslims." So nothing serious there, just small, emotional outburst. But the second one is RFK Jr., the guy who is actually known as vaccine denier, and his statements are on record that most of the vaccines are causing autism among children. So I don't know, because America is the nerve center of global vaccines and all innovations. So we still have to wait and see how that is going to pan out if he actually clears muster as well, and he becomes, the Secretary for Health and Human Services, right? Apart from that, most of his promises, the way he has been actually pledging in the past, that seems to be the choices also in the cabinet nominees. We still have to see how they are going to actually clear the voting test from Senate, because there you need a significant number to actually clear all of those. And if there is any chink in the armor, of Republicans that might actually create a problem for his nominees. But now, because I was talking about economic chessboard, last time he was in power, he did something to the tax code in such a way that most of the liquidity, remember that international currency is still in dollars, so he ended up attracting somewhere around $750 billion worth of dollars back to America. And that kind of liquidity crunch is not good for countries which don't have their own strong currency. China's currency, we know, is strong. Ruble might be under pressure, but it still is established one. Countries like India might face liquidity crunch, especially because many of their operations were bailed out by either Chinese money or then American money, or in the end Arab money. So there is going to be some kind of crunch there as well. But regarding the overall impact it is going to have, if it is true that millions of people are going to be deported from the country, it is going to create a huge spectacle, and it is going to create a lot of crisis of well-being. So that is going to have an impact as well. Regarding trade wars, remember that in many aspects, when you talk about state of affairs, the world is changing, Sana. Only a day before yesterday, Google actually came up with its quantum computing chip called Willow, and that seems to be a game changer. Similarly, Google actually came up with its AI that is called Gemini 2.0, and it deploys agents, right? And I'm not actually moving away from the topic. I just want to actually point out the kind of changes that are coming, dramatic changes. Those agents are now capable of replacing many jobs. So in coming days, there's going to be huge transformation in terms of jobs and everything. And in that situation, America seems to have elected a billionaire populist. Earlier, Faisal was talking about Elon Musk and his friendship with Donald Trump. My humble submission is these two gents have been made in charge of department that does not exist. Department of Government Efficiency is not there. It will have to be passed by the Congress with significant power, then that will be a department. There's another very interesting test of times, and that is when Donald Trump was booted from X, or for that matter Twitter. At that time he created his own social media organization or company called Truth Social, and there was this expectation that sooner or later, and there were negotiations, that Elon Musk's X and Truth Social are going to merge, but that hasn't happened. So remember who you're talking about. Trump, if there are many negatives that one can talk about, but there are certain qualities, good qualities to him as well. He is literally very unpredictable, and he gets very tired of people very quickly, especially someone who is sitting at Mar-a-Lago right now, and he himself has publicly said that Elon doesn't want to seem to leave Mar-a-Lago. So we still have to wait and see what exactly happens in the coming days. But regarding Trump's another very powerful tool that he has been actually brandishing, and it is about tariffs. He says he has threatened China, Canada, Mexico, and umpteen other countries with a lot of these tariffs, 25% to 100% tariff. And remember, there was discussion of BRICS launching its own currency. So he has actually immediately gone off and threatened that any country that tries to undermine dollar's centrality is going to actually be faced with 100% tariff. And that is not all. Remember that there was an effort by BRICS to bring Bitcoin as its main currency. And now with quantum computing, it seems that the age of crypto is under threat also. So we are looking at an amazing world in flux. But regarding certain other things, for example, because a person from Gujarat is going to be now FBI's director, Indians are very happy that somehow Adani's bribery case in DOJ is going to be somehow, reduced. But the fact is that Trump is Trump, and he is going to use every leverage that he gets to shore up his own country's power. And in that context, when you have Adani, in a corner, you are not going to let go. They are going to pounce like a tiger.
Right. And Janzad, I want your perspective on these discussions as well. But add to that in particular, when we talk about Mr. Donald Trump's role and relationship with the media. And I want your take on how that is going to be as we evolve. And of course, that includes social media with the factors of Elon Musk and the rest. But also in terms of his appointment with Voice of America and what his relationship with different media channels and outlets has been in the past. And so I want your take with regards to how this dynamic will unfold.
Yeah, of course, Sana. But before, if you allow me, just a quick comment about what we have discussed already. Look, in this part of the world, and everyone is hailing and praising Trump's approach, anti-war approach. But we must keep this factor in mind that whenever the Americans have pulled out of the war, they have left the chaotic, disorganized, regions and the countries. I think our emphasis and our pressures on the United States and Trump should be that he should, if we are not interested that he's for war, pro war, or anti war, but he should be pro peace, a total peace, because we need total peace. If he's pulling out of Middle East and leaving the Middle East as he has done in Iraq earlier, or he is as he is after the pull out, look at the condition of Afghanistan. So from wherever the Americans have pulled out of the war, they have left confusion, chaos, chaotic situation, and no respect for the humanity. So this is a extremely important phenomena we must keep in mind. Now, coming over to your next question, that about the media relationship, we all are very well aware of his hawkish approach towards media, and he has been, quite disrespectful many a times to many journalists, and we have seen those pressers in the White House also. But remember that he has won elections through the digital and through the social media in United States. We should have this thing in our mind. So all the media, mostly except very few, they were all against Trump. Faisal already made a statement that easily has won the elections. Faisal, I would say that he has not won elections very easily. Even on the day of the polling, there was a report there was a report published through the Reuters about the involvement of Russians in his victory. And the same morning, even their intelligence agencies they supported that report, and they gave out a report that there was involvement of the Russians, because on the days, the last day, on the day of election, even establishment was trying that then an atmosphere should be created where people don't vote for Trump. So he's gone through a lot of problems. And as I was saying, that he has won this election through the social media campaigns. As the youth, we are already talking about them. They reacted to the war policies, foreign policies, and especially the domestic policies. So of course his relationship is has not never been very good with the media, and probably considering his personality and the age he has reached, I don't think so that he's going to improve upon that. And probably now he must be thinking that in spite of all the opposite odds, I have won elections, and now why to give importance to this media? So he'll be more hawkish towards that approach, which may impact his government, or may impact the next candidate, or the people who are going to contest elections from his party. But probably I'm not seeing that he'll be changing his approach. But he will have to improve on these things, because once the president of United States have a specific behavior towards any aspect, or towards any element like media or military or foreign policy, that impacts the world. So I think he's in habit of creating enemies out of nowhere. I think he also loves friction like few other leaders in the world nowadays. So he's a kind of a person. But I think he should be thankful to the social media, and probably that will remain his strength.
General Saab, there is one follow-up question regarding his favorite leaders in the world, and that is this time on his inauguration, he has invited President Xi Jinping to be part of the inauguration ceremony. How do you see that?
And Jana Saab, there is another question which I wanted to ask you. Very recently, we saw that South Korean president did everything to save his wife, and we know that there are many leaders in the world who do certain things whatever their wives say. Can we say that Eastern European wife of Trump can play her role in Ukrainian crisis?
Uh, Rajasthan, you always put me in trouble. I also have a wife at my house, but probably anyway. Look, I think South Korea, that was a kind of, I take it as a joke, probably for 6 hours joke, and he couldn't resist. Of course, the wife does have an impact, and the family does have an impact. These nowadays the leaders belong to the supra elite, and the supra elite has a tendency to listen to the better offs, listen to their better offs, and that they do impact their policies. And in the recent past, there are many examples where the even the national policies are impacted by the people of the family, members of the family all over. Uh, Trump, of course, he'll have to listen if there is some advice or something else. But I don't think so. Not in the way, because there are a lot of corruption was involved in those examples which you are quoting. So now coming over to Pitafi Saab's, I think it's a big invite. I don't know that whether China has confirmed to it, but probably if he's coming, I think he has shown to the world that look, we want to resolve the issues, and probably this invite is more. This will have more weight from the economics points of view, the trade which they want to do with the China or the future trade policies. And primarily, you have already spoken about his impact on the his plans about the BRICS. If people are talking about the de-dollarization, so he's already warned them. But probably he's telling the world that look, I am in a mood to talk to any leader in the world, even if there are number one competitors. And probably it is more related to the economic policy of Trump and less related to the security and other policies of Trump.
Right. Thank you very much, Zahid, for joining us and being a part of the discussion today and sharing your insights and views with us on this very important issue. And of course, with regards to how we see this moving forward, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. Farrukh, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, regarding the first lady, former first lady, who's going to be actually first lady once again.
Yeah.
I think that one thing is for sure, that during Donald Trump's first tenure, we saw that two women played a very good role in moderating his influence. One was his wife, and the other was Ivanka Trump, his daughter, who was also an advisor. So I think that any comparison with any corruption that went on in South Korea is unfortunate. And I think that these people will actually try to center the US president, especially when he is swayed by other billionaire populists. So in coming days, I think that things are going to look up, and that will be. And by the way, there's another one that has played a very important role. Young son of President Donald Trump, who now is 6'9", and he has actually educated his father on social media and how exactly these podcasters actually played their role, and that might also have played a very important role in the shaping of the policy. So I think that in coming days, his family is going to play a positive role in keeping him centered.
Right, and that of course remains to be seen in terms of what we're going to be taking a look at in of course the
You're not
second
convinced.
term, the second term.
You're
of,
not convinced.
of course, it's something that we're going to be looking at and of course be discussing in further detail. We're now going to also quickly take a look at what is going on in Pakistan with reference to the wave of terrorism, and unfortunately, it's something that we've been dealing with regularly, and it is something that both the military and the government of Pakistan are very, very serious about. And so, in terms of the intelligence-based operations such as those that have been recently conducted in North Waziristan, it is important to understand what this threat is and what exactly are we doing about it and what kind of re-evaluation exists in terms of the current scenario. And Faisal, I want your take on this because a number of measures have been taken with regards to this new wave and with regards to how we're dealing with terrorism now. But in terms of what we see on ground, in terms of the IBOs that are conducted, what seems to be one of those elements in which we can actually take a closer look in dealing with this particular threat, and then of course with the ways that it comes in from across the border as well?
Yes, Sana, that's a very good question, and I think this is the time, perfect time to talk about it. Why? Because we know that Pakistan lost one of the soldiers, I mean, Naik Muhammad Amin. He laid his life fighting in fitna, against fitna Khawarij, and 7 of the Kharjis, they've been dispatched to hell by Pakistan Army's IBO. And these IBOs are on daily basis taking place because Pakistan is fighting against the terrorism every day to make sure that Pakistan is safe enough. Why I say this is the perfect time to talk about it, because yesterday we had assassination in Kabul of Khalilur Rahman Haqqani, who happened to be the minister of Taliban regime, and the responsibility is being put and taken by ISIS Khorasan. We have been, of course, in our show and Pakistan as a state as well, conveying the messages to Taliban regime that this is a menace that is brewing in 3 of their provinces, and this is the very menace that has been, of course, catering TTP, catering BLA, BLF. Why? Because their motive is same, and their motive is that they want to, of course, create havoc for Pakistan, and they want to create havoc for relations of both of the countries as well. Now we have seen that one of the Taliban's key ministers, a key figure who once had had money put by FBI and put by CIA, and of course this man has been assassinated by ISIS Khorasan. So this is the time to, of course, realize the mistakes of Taliban by themselves. They need to, of course, ponder once more that whatever is taking place in Pakistan, that has everything to do with Afghanistan, and whatever has happened in Afghanistan, it needs to be, of course, catered by Afghanistan themselves as well. I mean, previously they didn't pay any heed to whatever Pakistan has been seeking in terms of their alertness in their own country, but now when it is happening to themselves, then of course it is time for them to rethink, reponder where they are wrong and where do they need Pakistan's assistance to eliminate this menace, which is in 3 provinces, Nuristan, Kunnad, Nangarhar. We have mentioned these 3 provinces so many times, and I think it needs to be done now, and relatively a positive approach and a very saner approach from Taliban regime is required as well, and Pakistan is already fighting against them. It's only Taliban which they need to realize that without having hand and glove with Pakistan, they can never, of course, fight against this menace of ISIS Khorasan and TTPs and BLAs and BLFs.
Absolutely, but in terms of what our priorities are, in terms of how we need to protect our own borders and the people of Pakistan, Farrukh, I want your perspective on that, given, of course, that is what we're, of course, trying to achieve at the end of the day. And how does this dynamic then fit in with the ways that we're conducting these operations within Pakistan?
Right. Thank you very much, Sana, and I'm going to answer that. But very quickly, I wanted to actually comment on what Faisal said regarding one assassination that took place yesterday. And while Faisal was telling us about the cabinet minister's name, I felt that he left out the last name. Khalil Rahman Haqqani is a
No, I
full
did
name.
say Haqqani.
I thought that then I missed out. So I was about to ask whether it was a deliberate automation or something else. But the fact is that whether Daesh actually takes a responsibility or something else, there has been infighting among Taliban. We saw that after assassination of Amal Zawari, that there was a similar kind of attack on Haqqani's from TTP's elements within Afghan Taliban. And although they survived at that time, right now also I think that there are three distinct divisions, and we still have to see how that plays out, whether it is to our advantage or not. Now, speaking of our borders, I think IBOs are covering most of what was happening, what is happening, and I think that our soldiers, our law enforcement agencies are heroes that need to be celebrated by this entire country, and I think the world, because between chaos and civilization, these people are there. Because of them, civilization is still thriving in the world. Now, there is one concern that I have, and that is we still don't know, especially when I talk to the policymakers, when I talk to lawmakers, we still don't have the understanding of the extent of damage that was done by the deal that was cut by PTI's government. And because there is a journal who is being court-martialed as we speak, I think it will be very important for our lawmakers to demand more visibility into the matter, because this seems to have actually been responsible for many deaths in Pakistan. And I think that while we are looking at those charges which have been framed against the person, this is the biggest one, because he was commanding at that time the Peshawar Corps. And it was at that time that all the pickets in the troubled areas were immediately removed without giving any notice, and that might have spread the cancer once again within the country. So I think that it is important that we ask for accountability and we demand anybody who is responsible for one death of Pakistani soldier or citizen should be held accountable.
Absolutely, that should be the case. Thank you very much, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the debate. As always, that's all that we have time for. We'll now see you tomorrow.